mentorship has a very important role as you're coming up your learning curve. But if that doesn't switch over to finding sponsorship, finding opportunities, taking a risk, being restless, keeping your head up, looking around, you're gonna kind of just recycle right there.
So Lee, how about for the audience? I'll give it to you the opportunity. Why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself, and then we'll do what you do best. Let's get to action.
Just get
on
going.
behalf of society and humanity. How about that? That's the call to action.
All right, that's awesome. Well, thank you, Brad. I mean, I'll just give you a little bit of quick background on me. I went to vet school to become a dairy practitioner, and that's what I did for the first 5 years out in practice. And I did that successfully best I could. And I would tell you that probably one of the barriers that got in my way and got me frustrated and on the path that I've been on since is a lack of sponsorship. And so, but you know, I won in the end because I pivoted and I joined Banfield. And that was a long time ago, 22 years ago, almost now. And I will tell you that I think the opportunities that I've had to grow as a professional, as a leader, have been very tightly tied to the sponsorship that I've had in this organization over the years. I started out as an associate veterinarian in St. Paul, Minnesota. And when I wasn't even thinking I was ready to be a leader, when I wasn't thinking I was ready to go to the next step, I had leaders come to me and actively grab me by the collar and say, Lee, we need your leadership here.
Wow.
And at very critical points in my career, and I can think of the people, I can name them, you know, Sue Martin, John Bork, you know, Jeff Ellison, people early on that were really critical in helping me see myself differently,
Sure.
and help give me a little crack in the door, you know, to get through. And then, you know, then it was up to me to make sure that I could prove my worth from there. But I think sponsorship's been critical. I mean, I will tell you about, you know, so I worked in field leadership. I led throughout the field leadership group. I led with the veterinary affairs group and got the quality program off the ground in partnership with Karen Font. And then I got invited again by the CIO at the time to come over to IT, which was not even in my realm. Either. But somebody sponsored, somebody, you know, stepped forward and said, hey, Lee, we see your leadership. We think it would be helpful in the organization over here. I had to stretch my own paradigm to get there. And we negotiated a stretch opportunity for me. Mm-hmm. And that opened up, you know, a lot of things for me because, you know, being in the veterinary affairs and veterinary team leadership was incredible. But it's one perspective on the organization. And I think getting into IT, which touches everything in the organization, I've got to understand much more deeply of how the organization worked. And then I had more opportunity. And then at the end of my stretch assignment, I took a risk. I sat down with Brian. I said, Brian, I learned a lot this year. I see a need in the business. And we haven't done this before. We haven't done it successfully, but I think we can. And Brian took a risk. And Brian listened and took a risk on me. And we started the Office of Business Effectiveness, which has really been put in place to help CTS be more effective in putting initiatives and capabilities in place for our hospitals that help our clients, our patients, and our associates. And again, that was sponsorship. If it wouldn't have been for Brian being willing to sit down with me and really deeply hear me and then say, yep, we can do that, Lee, and I'm going to crack the door, now go make it happen, you know, I would have never had that opportunity. So this organization, well, we have opportunities to grow in sponsorship. We've done a lot of good things here. And so we're starting from a strong place.
Awesome. I love it. I love the energy. I mean, everyone can hear the energy and the excitement and you bring that. No wonder why you go to action and get stuff done. So Leo, help me understand something from your opinion. Like, what's the difference of a mentor versus a sponsor? We hear a lot of that often, and sometimes I feel like they're done interchangeably, where it's like mentorship and sponsorship is the same thing. So from your perspective, like, what do you think the difference is between the two?
Yeah, thank you, Brian. So, you know, both are important, right? But I think mentorship is kind of that behind the scenes, teaching, helping, giving feedback kind of thing. Needed, right? We needed. But I think what's happened, particularly for a lot of women on a leadership path, is they get sort of stuck there. and they do what I call shine the apple, right? Which is to become the expert in an area. And I think mentorship has a very important role as you're coming up your learning curve. But if that doesn't switch over to finding sponsorship, finding opportunities, taking a risk, being restless, keeping your head up, looking around, you're gonna kind of just recycle right there. And if that's what you want, if you want to become an expert where you're at, fine, that's fine. But if you have aspirations to keep going in your amount of responsibility and your impact, you've got to make that step change to where can I try to find some sponsorship.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. I think one of the takeaways I had from Minda's book, the memo, again, if you've not read that book yet, anyone, go out and get the book. It's fantastic. Was the success partner, specifically how Minda talks about success partners. And why I love that is because it's about individuals. It's about names. It's not about just generalities or I can just attend, meetings and this is how I give back. It's asking for specificity. So to be a success partner, as a success partner coach, if you will, you should be able to say, here are the people that I'm partnering with. These are the partnerships that I'm creating, or these are the people that I truly am sponsoring. And it's just as important for success partners to say what they're doing versus those that can say, hey, this person is sponsoring me. So you reflected on some of your past with respect to success partners. So maybe how important has that been, and how does that make you feel when you think back in the past of some success partners?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is where, my heart's with Banfield, right? My heart is with Banfield because I think at such key points in my growth, in my leadership journey, that person has shown up. Now, have they shown up exactly where I thought they were going to at exactly the time and exactly the position? No. Yeah. But I think it required sort of an open-mindedness and a willingness for me to take risks, to be like, wow, that's an interesting person that I've just had this connection with.
Right.
And I think, a lot of times, again, as being a sponsor to women leaders, over decades now, I think I'm probably treading into a little bit of sensitive territory here, but I think there's really opportunities for women leaders to do better.
It is about creating that psychologically safe space. You've talked about that as just like the environment. And and again, our last person that we talked with and everyone got to hear from was author Erica Keswin, who's, again, her book's amazing, Rituals Roadmap. But that ritual is about creating the psychologically safe space, connecting to purpose that delivers performance or helps propel performance. So if we think about those 3 Ps, I just wanted to anchor that for you, Lee, because as you talk about those experiences and those emotions and being able to be your authentic self and share, let's maybe talk a little bit more about that psychological safe space that was either created for you, or how are you wanting to role model that for everyone else so women can have the right type of sponsorship.
Yeah. I think it's when you have it, it's a gift. If you have it, please be grateful and take full advantage. And be vulnerable in those situations to learn and grow and get that candid feedback. Because there are definitely, I've had plenty of leadership experiences where, that wasn't really there. And so then it's a little different, it's a little different ball game, and you have to go at things a little bit differently. So, if you have somebody that is a coach and a mentor and potentially a sponsor for you, I would encourage that you take risks in that space. That you ask for what you want. And when I say that, I mean, get out of your comfort zone and ask to get involved in that meaty thing, that risky thing, the thing that you could fall on your face. Because if you're not willing to take those risks to really, really crash, you're probably not going to get, it's risk and reward, and if you want the big reward, you got to be willing to step into some of that risk. And sometimes I see people, they're too guarded for that. And
right.
And especially if you've got a leader that's giving you some air cover, right? And is giving you real-time feedback of yeah, you're about 30 degrees off target there, And I mean, for me, and that may be different person to person, but for me, I needed a long leash, right? I need a long, I need a very long leash in order to be my best self, right? And so if you cinch my leash down too tight, I don't behave well typically, just candidly. So, you know, it fits with my profile. If you see my disc profile and stuff, it all, right?
It all makes sense.
It all makes sense. But that being said, you know, being left if I'm in a new space, but I don't have anybody giving me any feedback, that doesn't serve me either, right? Like I need somebody to be like, Lee, you know, you got these two right, and this thing you're off, or you're 30 degrees off the mark, or have you considered this thing that you're going to be impacting, right? And so you're looking for those people that will just lay it on the line in a constructive way, in a cone of silence, so that you can really take some of those calculated risks.
That's great. And that feels like it has to be a psychologically safe space then.
Yeah.
For the conversation to happen both ways. And so I think that's absolutely fantastic. Well, again, I mean, I always love talking to Leah. Her energy is always fantastic. And it's always about what more can we do, because it's in service of our purpose, which is so absolutely fantastic. So, all right, Lee, last question I have for you. How about you, you've talked a lot about some of the sponsors and some of the way to create the safe space and what you expect. Maybe share an example of like a powerful example of how a sponsor really impacted you and what that meant for you.
Well, there's been so many. I mean, I could give you a recent one. I could give you an early one. I mean, I think an early one was 9/11. When 9/11 happened, I was a chief of staff in St. Paul, busiest hospital in the market. I was one of the top producing doctors in the country at the time. And I was sitting in a CE right after 9/11 on cat oncology. And I was like, oh God, I'm not on my purpose. I had this epiphany. I'm not on my purpose. Right. And then I ended up, I had to take stock. I quit and I went back and got my MPH.
Wow.
And John Bork was the medical director, or the field director at the time in the Minnesota market. And he said, Lee, he said, go ahead, go do what you got to do. Go do what you got to do, but you'll be back. You'll be back. I'm waiting for you. You'll be back. And I was like, John, I got to go do this other thing. I don't think I'm going to be back. So went for a year, but John he kept calling me, take me to lunch. I was broke at the time because now I was a grad student again. And take me to lunch. And he'd be like, Lee, you know, it's fine. Do your thing. But like, when you're ready, come back. And sure enough, you know, I got done and he came back to me with the proposal for what was then a newly minted role, which was the medical director role. And and at that time it was across multiple states, and it was a bigger footprint than it is now. So it was really growing. But he said, and I said, I don't think I'm ready for that, John. I don't think I'm ready to be a multi-unit leader and da. He's like, you are. Yes, you are. You absolutely are. And I've got you. So come on, let's go do this thing. And then that was the start of it. And that was, but he was tenacious. And then he gave me air cover. And I did a lot of things right. I did a lot of things wrong. And I learned from him, and he gave me feedback, and we'd get into it. But at the end of the day, I trusted him completely. It was a pivotal point. And then once I started to get the hang of multi-leader and then leading leaders, and again, if I get restless, if I get comfortable, I used to have like a 2.5-year attention span. Now I have about a 4-year attention span. And then I'm like, okay.
That's growth.
Yeah, that's right. What is there? I get restless, right? What's going on? What's going on? What else is going on?
Well, I love the restlessness, because for Women of Banfield, you're an amazing advocate, and you're always constantly challenging anyone who shows up to a meeting, who's part of a meeting, who wants to be part of a meeting, of, hey, this isn't just attend and do nothing. It's about, what are you going to do? How are you going to give back? How are you going to impact? How are you going to influence? So Lee, thank you for being you. Thank you for for everything that you do, not just for the industry, the profession, but specifically bringing it back down to our associates at Banfield. I'm so proud of the work that we've been able to do over the years, and the impact that we've been able to make, not just on pets, associates, and clients, but society as well. And for us to truly be a beacon for how a company ought to behave, we've got to make sure we get more people part of these conversations. And we need all of our hospital associates to join a diversity resource group. Find out what is important to you, which one you want to learn more about, learn, join and be part of the conversation, but be part of action, taking action and being part of the solution. And it's amazing what we can be able to do, because right now, specifically what we experienced in 2020 is you can see it's more of a call to action. Yeah. We should be able to look back and feel good about the progress we made, but in the end, we still have a lot more work to do. And it's only going to happen if we listen to each other, create the psychologically safe space, align on our purpose, and perform. Not just for ourselves, our friends, our families, but our society's counting on us. And it's enough's enough. We need more seats at the table, and everyone deserves that seat at the table. And we shouldn't have a table that doesn't look and is not representative of society. And that's not okay on my watch. And I'm going to continue to fight tirelessly to make sure that we are fighting for humanity. So, Lee, I'm going to give you the final word. It's over to you.
Just thank you for your activism. I mean, truly. And I mean, I think we're at the beginning of the journey. And I would say whether you're on your own individual journey or you can be a sponsor, lean into it. Let's get going. Let's up level our leadership. Take risks.
I love it. Up level our leadership, take risks. And for more information on ways to do this, I'd go back to these two last Instagram lives. The Memo from Minda Hart's, fantastic book, and it will inspire you for a call to action. And I love Rituals Roadmap by author Erica Keswin. Both authors, Minda and Erica, are fantastic, and they can both give you insights. And specifically, the last one, Erica can talk about, creating the psychologically safe space, aligning that to purpose to take performance to a whole nother level. And really, whether it's performance for you personally, for your hospital, for society and humanity, it's about making a difference. So we have two fantastic authors. Check those out. But Lee, your final word was amazing. Thanks for all your advice, and thanks for everything, who you are, what you stand for, and let's keep going.
Thank you, Brian.
All right. See you, everybody.